Um, Thank you again, everyone. I want to first turn it over to Officer Duran from the Albany Police Department Neighborhood Engagement Unit to provide any, you know, updates, and thank items in the area we should be particularly concerned about. I know there's a lot going on with um, transient and unhoused populations, which is why we've got uh, Jenny Robalita, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, or nowhere near it. But she'll be talking about her work with the interfaith um, organization to assist homeless persons later in the meeting. But as I said, I want to turn over to Officer Durand. I know he has a busy schedule.
How's everybody doing? It's good to see everybody again. I'm glad we're at least getting together. It definitely would be better in person. But looking forward to speaking with everybody. Just kind of a quick rundown, just from like a numbers standpoint. What we've seen over the last couple of months is about 246 or so calls for service on average. I don't have the stats yet for September because we're still, in the middle of the month, but we anticipate probably it being around the same time. A lot of, or around the same number. A lot of these calls are very, very close and breakdown from different reports, to a bunch of different call types, whether it's someone annoying or checking a party or just property checks. So they seem pretty even. Um, One of the things I did want to touch on, and Terrell just touched on it, was we are seeing and hearing an increasing number of calls surrounding around homeless folks, mainly in the parks, whether it be Dana Park, a little bit of it has been Hudson Park, but mainly Washington Park, and with folks like setting up camps and leaving stuff behind and everything like that. So that definitely is something that we're aware of, and it's an ongoing process. We've been trying to work with some of our community partners to help folks get housed or get services, and we have a couple of different initiatives kind of directed at that, just as the police department. I'm sure Interfaith can speak a little bit more about the initiatives that they're trying to put together as well. But we're also kind of closely working with Albany County Mental Health and Mobile Crisis as well, because a lot of these issues seem to kind of be tied in. Even last night on Lark Street, we dealt with a gentleman who, we weren't sure exactly what was going on, but we think like a combination of some mental health related issues as well as like substance abuse related issues. And we're seeing like quite a bit of that. So we're trying to come from a few tiered approach as to how we can best, address some of these concerns. But, it's one of those difficult issues, and it's something that we're definitely kind of seeing an increasing number. Now, whether or not that will kind of continue in the winter, I've been here for about 12 years or so, and usually we see this ebb and flow with the highest number of calls or instances being in the summertime, and generally that starts to taper off. But we're still trying to work towards how we can have less negative interactions with folks needing services. So. Does anybody have any questions for me as far as the statistic standpoint? That's really what I have for you there. Any other questions? And then, Terrell, should I make my announcement now or later?
That now is fine. Yeah, it's really up to you.
Okay, so I just wanted to throw out I am moving to a new role. I am going to be in a supervisory capacity of a squad, so I will no longer be the beat officer as of Friday. Fear not, though, they are diligently working on trying to find and train my replacement. So I expect that there really won't be a long delay, and whoever actually does end up taking over my job and replacing me I'll be working closely with them to make sure that there's a seamless transition. In the meantime, if anybody ever needs anything, you have my contact information or anything like that. I also just want to throw out a thank you to all of you. Everybody's been really great and has been awesome in kind of like helping the smooth transition. And I know that we've all kind of been working towards the same thing, which is like safe and prosperous neighborhoods. And this would be so much harder without everybody here. So I can't thank you enough. I know it's just words, but at the end of the day, like I really do appreciate everybody's help and like really diligent work and the different community partners that we've worked with, over the last couple of years that I've really had the an honor and pleasure to serve this community. So I really do appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say congratulations. It's well deserved. I know it's probably going to be a ton of work on with a supervisory position, but you've been fantastic. So again, just a big congratulations to you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I am sad too to leave the role because I really do appreciate everybody and have really formed some really good relationships with folks here and it has been great.
Yeah, you've been a real asset to the association and to the community, and we're very pleased working with you, and we look forward to continuing to work with Kevin as well as an individual who's lucky enough to try and fill your shoes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Folks have
Officer Duran, will you still be so you'll be leading a squad? Will that squad be involved in our neighborhood, or is that a totally different part of Albany?
So I'm not sure just yet. We have to go through a training program to supervise. So once we're done with that, I'll get assigned to a squad. So it may oversee like some of the neighborhoods, maybe not the neighborhood specifically, but it just really depends on which station I end up going to. If I am down south, like I will oversee one of the squads. I'm not sure like what time or what shift, but I'll end up overseeing one of those. So I'm excited about it because I've been in this role and I've been able to like form relationships with everybody. So like this will definitely help, you know what I mean? I think in the long run and helping to like supervise officers who might have questions or have interactions with members of the community. So I am looking forward to that because I think it gives me kind of a distinct edge over some of the officers who haven't had the opportunity to have this role.
Got you. Well, selfishly, we hope that you're still involved in the neighborhood, even if indirectly.
That's all right. I hope so too. So
great. Does anyone else have other questions for Officer Duran? No? All right. Thank you very much. Again, we appreciate your time and coming to speak with us. Let me see.
absolutely. Thank you guys for everything. I'll be on in the meeting or after if anybody wants to reach out. And like I said, you have my contact information as well. So thank you guys again.
Great. Thank you. So next I want to get into committee reports. And with that, I'll start with my own. Just a couple updates. Couple months ago, I'm not remembering the timing. Gabriela Romero reached out about potential sites within the neighborhood where speed humps might be appropriate to help calm traffic to off of Lark Street, and one that should be updated. Not there is a speed hump proposed for Dove Street. The one actually I want to talk about is on Hamilton Street. There is an RFP, so Gabriela submitted that to the city. They had asked for potential locations. The city put out an RFP, which just closed on September 8th. We're still waiting to hear from the evaluation on that. But it does look promising to adding a speed hump to Hamilton, between at least Lark and Dove, which definitely help what is a very a fairly high traffic street, fairly fast traffic. And then the other thing, we have a neighborhood cleanup that Falake and Gabriella are organizing for the end of the month, and end of the season. It's going to have multiple meeting locations in Dana Park, Hudson J Park, corner of State and Willett. There's also Pat Kelly Park, which I am not familiar with. So I'm kind of thinking that's closer to the other end of Washington Park.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Pat Kelly Park is right in the Park South neighborhood. I don't know the exact address for it, but it's literally the block right after 139 Knox Street.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Those are kind of the immediate things. Obviously, we are seeing increased issues on Lark Street that we are continuing to talk about. Folks, please do reach out to myself, other officers. We are looking to collate that information, kind of keep track of it as well. I know it's on our representatives' radar, and we want to make sure it stays on the city's radar, particularly as the city's gearing up for administration change. So I think keeping up with all that, during this time, of the next several months will be important to help shape things going forward as well. With that, I will turn it over to Keith. You can give the treasurer's report.
All right. This is never a very exciting conversation, but so before we meet each time, I just prepare. I look through, everything that's been happening, and I'm aware of what's been happening as the treasurer, but this is my time to just prepare a little something for everyone. In the bank account, we have a number of CDs. I think there's 6 or 7 certificate of deposit, including those and the checking and savings account. We have about 22,000 in the bank right now. Since we last met, we did receive over 2,000 from Center Square, and those were basically even up receipts from some events, the biggest one being the Stoop Stroll. Typically, all of the proceeds from the Stoop Stroll was prior to this year was split 3 ways because Historic Albany was involved. This year they were not. So all of our proceeds, we just split 50-50 after expenses were deducted, which are minimal. And last year we donated our proceeds from the Stoop Stroll to fund the Hudson J Park because that is funded privately, from snow removal to grass cutting and things like that. And then all of the flower beds are just kept up by volunteers. So we haven't necessarily been asked by Center Square if we will donate the funds again. I imagine that question would come. So as a group, we would have to determine if that's what we want to do again this year. I personally would support that. And then expenses out, just a few regular, Microsofts, which is where we keep our records, Zoom to host these meetings. And then when we receive in funds through PayPal, they take a little off the top for fees. So all in all, we're in good financial shape.
Yeah. And bit of an update with Hudson J Park. I know Center Square and particularly has been working with DGS to get more regular city mowing. The private contractor we had been working with, the prices just kind of got you know, as with everything else going up. But we had some good initial discussions with the city for mowing, so we're hoping that can go forward, and then our funds can continue to improve the flower beds. They go to pay for like bricks along the path within the park, and other things as well. I think, Keith, was that it? Are there any questions? With that, I'll turn it over to Carrie Ward with the minutes, which I shared in the chat. If anyone has any, wants either take a minute or has any questions, let us know.
Carol, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
And I hear a second.
A second.
Great. All in favor? Wave or hand gestures with Zoom or whatever. Great. Carrie, do you have a question?
No, there was.
All right. Okay. So I think that actually brings us next to Janine. I am so sorry. I'll let you introduce yourself before I put my foot further in my mouth.
Janine Robitaille.
Janine Robitaille.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have Cleveland Morgan on here too. He is the supervisor at one of our locations, Community Connections. So I thought I would speak a little and then let him speak about what they do there. He really knows probably better than I do because he's there every day. So thanks for having us.
Janine, I'm sorry. Do you mind if I was planning on just introducing you? Just very quick.
I'm sorry, Keith. You go.
Yeah. Oh no, I just wanted to, just explain to folks why we invited you here.
Okay. Perfect.
Which is, we do have sort of, an escalating problem in the neighborhood of homeless folk. And, obviously I think that, the community at large is concerned because there's safety issues, there's crime issues, cleanliness, businesses are being affected. But I also want to say, and Terrell actually said this recently, that the problem, if you will, isn't just the things that I just cited. The problem is also those folks who are homeless. They are in crisis, dealing with mental health issues, substance abuse issues, economic, social issues. And so sort of like to tackle this, both ends of it, we need more than just sort of calling the police when something happens. We need kind of a holistic approach, which is, working with the police, working with various government social services, but also working with nonprofits such as IPH. So really, that's why we thought it was important just to see, how we could sort of work together with our particular issue that's happening. I've been involved with IPH for a few years now through my mother-in-law, who drives clothes up from New Jersey and brings to the shelter. And so I just met Janine a few weeks ago at a small event. and I was absolutely impressed with just sort of the track record of IPH, their approach. So yeah, so that's all I wanted to say, Janine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. So a presentation, right, is, I guess I'm going to explain a little what we do. I could go into, way long detail, but I know you're all looking for answers, right? So let's start with, this is not unique to Albany or Saratoga or Schenectady, Amsterdam, Gloversville, nowhere. It is really happening. The whole country is having a problem. So at this point, I believe Albany is putting aside some money, gathering some resources to help with this issue. But as far as IPH goes, we have a shelter at 176 Sheridan for 30 beds, men and women. We have a shelter down on South Berry Street for people that are coming out of hospitals, that are homeless, that need a place to kind of recover. It's called, it's a medical respite facility where people, you or I, have surgery, we go home, we heal, we go to doctor's appointments, we get our scripts, and we get better. But if you don't have a home to go home to, then your chances are you're not going to heal, and then you'll be back in the hospital, and then so on and so on goes the cycle. So we established the first one in the state for the medical respite, and it's a successful model that we have there, as well as some what we call regular shelter beds. So there's 30 beds there as well. We have a safe haven shelter in the code blue winter months that we open up on South Swan over off of Sheridan. That supposed to serve about 35. Last year we were averaging about 60. And that's strictly people coming in at night. They're cold. They eat a meal, they sleep on a cot, they go out the next day. It's a different model than our shelters. Our shelters are really more about holistic approach, and really looking at the individual. How can we help get you out of homelessness? And what do we need to do? And so you are an active participant as the guest at our shelter to where we're going with what you want to do. It is not our job to dictate your future. So we feel very strongly about accepting people where they are. We are not a dry shelter. We are not a clean and sober shelter. We are not a treatment facility. We are a homeless shelter. And our goal is to get you some help, connect you to services. There's a lot of services out there. And so our job is to connect you to services. In order to get in our doors for the two shelters I just described, you generally have to go through Department of Social Services, and then they will refer you. The Safe Haven Code Blue shelter is walk-in. And that's every day of the week. We start mid-November, we end usually in April. 7 days a week. We don't care if it's 32 or if it's 22, it's cold. So we decide that we want to be open every day. We are also in the process of reopening what was Mercy House over in the Tenbrook neighborhood. That housed women. We're going to have co-edit to 14 men, 6 women, because the county needs beds. Like Catholic Charities closed a male shelter and a female shelter within the last year, and those beds are much needed. So we were asked if we would consider opening up some more beds. So we are. So that should open November 1st, 15th-ish. We're trying to get that all ready. And then we have other shelters in other counties, which you don't care about, for Fulton County, Montgomery County. So I guess the moral of this story is we are well versed in shelter. We also have a lot of permanent housing that I have built. We house people, we have subsidies, we have a whole housing team. I think we have like 65 subsidies. Some of it's in our own housing that we've built, some is in the community, could be your neighbor, where people are living in the community in permanent housing with a subsidy, and they have a case manager that comes to see them. My philosophy is that the answer is not exactly even the roof over your head, but it's the support that you receive. So you can't just put someone in an apartment and say they're going to do better, because they're not. So we are kind of the place that people go to seemingly that are homeless, that really want to do better, want to kind of change their life a little. They may not stop drinking, but they will be housed and they will be safe. And we are here to support them through whatever journey that is. So we have a health and wellness, kind of 317. We had a nurse on staff. We currently are trying to figure out a better way to do that. We are partnered with Whitney Young. They have a van that comes twice a week. We have worked very closely with the outreach van that used to be, we all knew the hack van, now called the Joseph's outreach van, and that operates a lot. And I would say that they are key to a lot of this because they ride around, they know where people are, and they're helping. I think the city is trying to put money into addressing this issue with case management out on the street. They're looking at some serious outreach funding. There's a lot put aside currently. And I think that by this spring, we will see that moving in a good direction. They did some studies and some pilots and realized that a lot of these people, if you talk to them, don't want to go to shelter. They have a perception of what the shelter is. And ours are structured. There's no doubt about it. They're structured. Like, the Safe Haven Code Blue is a non-structured because you're only there to really sleep and get, stay alive. But in the morning, you have to go. So I think they're a little fearful. There's some, misinformation in the community of homelessness that, that we're sober, that you have to be clean and sober, that you have to, really all you have to do is meet with case managers and kind of establish a goal plan, whatever that may be. We have curfews though, and and we there's no loitering outside my buildings. There's no, there's a lot of Janine rules, I guess, as you go, but we have to be good neighbors, and so we are a good neighbor. So as far as what your issues are, I can't say that IPH has the answer to that. When people call me all the time, oh, there's a person, I just say call the police. But I think that there's going to be a change and a shift for that. I think there is going to be a people to come and get out there and meet with people and talk to people, because if you're homeless and you have mental health issues, the chances of you trusting a police officer aren't great. So I think the idea of hiring mental health professionals to work with that population out in the street is a step in the right direction. I would also say the panhandlers, he always ask me about the panhandlers, that we generally, the ones that we all see on Everett Road and all over, we have never seen them in our systems. I can't tell you they're not homeless, but I can just tell you that what we've seen is not, we don't know any of them. So I always tell people, just don't give them money. So that's all we can do. I think I just was reading in the TU, the city is trying to do something about that panhandler policy. So I'm not caught up on that, but so I get it. I live in Albany too. I live next to a park. So I get it. It is, and for me, it's probably not as the same experience seeing them as it is for people who don't work with this population every day. So I understand there's probably some fears, but I look at the news every day and I can't remember the last time I saw, except for our own facility, a homeless person attacking somebody. That happened in our facility last year, but in my whole career, in 19 years in Arbor Hill, I've never had that happen. We've just never. It's I think, people feel like people who are mentally ill and are talking to themselves or that they're just violent and they're just going to start a rampage, and I just don't think that's accurate. Can't say it would never happen because we've certainly seen it happen, but I would say there's more fear in the other shootings that are happening in Albany at a furious pace. So I understand it, and I want to be a part of the solution. And so I'm going to let Cleveland talk about what we do at our daytime community connections, because if nothing else, if you see people and you want to talk to them, you can refer them, because you'll have, you'll at least know what we do. So go Cleveland.
Good evening, all. So what we do at 315 Sheridan Avenue, what we commonly call as Community Connections, is we operate as a daytime drop-in service, Monday through Fridays from the hours of 9 to 3 p.m. What we offer our clients are mailboxes, lockers for small storage. We have a full-time case manager who's on site. We have a clothing pantry. All the clothes that we have are donated. We launder them so that when we're putting them out, they're clean, obviously. We work in conjunction with Catholic Charities where they run a food pantry, 3 days out of the week out of the building, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have breakfast and lunch Monday through Fridays. Our breakfasts are from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and our lunches are from 1 to 3. We have some recently newly installed computer stations. We actually have 3. And the purpose of those are for guests to find jobs, to search for jobs and housings, to check their emails between, employers or landlords possibly. We have a meditation room, which we use for guests who seek some time out or some alone time, or guests who ascribe to like a specific religion where they may want some time alone to pray or what have you. We have laundry services as well, where we do 1 load of laundry for our guests a day. We provide the detergent, we provide the fabric softener. We also have community provider offices where providers from the community will come meet with our guests. And the purpose of the offices obviously are to offer confidentiality between the providers and the guests. And that's basically
Mailboxes.
what we do in a nutshell.
We have mailboxes people use for a mailing address to get their checks.
Right.
And the whole concept of this for me was to provide a place that other providers would come and meet where the people are at. We see about, I think it's 100 people a day. Like it's a very active building, but it prevents those 100 people. When we were closed for a month last year from the trauma that we had, and people were like on the street, you could hear the police were calling us like, there's people back out. That's 100 people more. I mean, so it's very impactful. They have nowhere to go. So they come to us, and everything there is, you could do what you want to do or not what you want to do. You don't have to meet with a case manager. You don't have to do anything, but just be, and be safe and be with other people. Maybe eat a meal with people. It's a hot meal every day. And we take great pride in the support that we provide those people who have no one else. There's people who live even around in our neighborhood who live alone. They're lonely. They want to come and just be around people. And so it's a very friendly environment. We do at that one location have security with that wands people. We do not allow any weapons in the building. And we take a lot of steps to ensure our safety. And the safety of the clients that are there. It's a brand new. We opened in 2019, like 4 months before COVID. And so, we've been digging out of a hole a little bit, trying to, but the clients know we're there. The clients know we're there. So it's a great facility. And I think that people have other agencies are trying to all of a sudden get the word. We have a training room that people are using. With CDPHP, like, will come and enroll people for insurance, and so the veterans advocates will come and get people signed up for veterans benefits, and so we have a whole host of things happening that people just have needs. And when Safe Haven we open Safe Haven when this place closes, so that people have 24/7 somewhere to go in the winter. So they're at Safe Haven, they go out in the morning, they go up the street, they go to Community Connections. So we have like a whole cycle of services within our own agency. So that's, really in a nutshell. I could think of probably 100 things and I'll go, oh, I didn't say that, but you can certainly go to our website. It will tell you probably more than you ever wanted to know. But we're really just addressing needs as we are asked. The state comes to me asking, for help, and so we help any way we can. The county asks for help, I help. If I can help, I'm going to help. Because at the end of the day, those are people out there. They're human beings. There was someone's son. There was someone's baby. There was someone's brother. They're human beings. They're not out there, because they have a whole bunch of choices. So, we do what we can. I think on a given day, in the winter, particularly, I go to bed and I think I'm probably housing between everywhere like 300 people. So I sleep okay in the winter. Like, it's hard work. Cleveland takes on that Safe Haven, supervises it. Like, it is no joke. So it's very active environment. But people, for the first couple hours are very active, and then they're just tired. They're tired from being out in the cold. They're tired from being hungry. They're tired from worrying about where they're going to stay that night. It's exhausting being homeless. So then people will say, well, I just drink all day because what else do I have to do? I can't, I'm not employable at this point. So it's like this vicious cycle. It's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And so we really helped a lot of people. I think last year, I don't know, Cleveland, what did we get? Like I'm gonna say 25 people into housing, but we work
I
hard.
think we did about 25 to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not everybody that comes to Safe Haven and needs Code Blue is helpless. And not all of them are like, well, none of them work. I mean, they do. And so I think, okay, 25, that's not a bad number. So we really try to be, if we're the only people that care about you, that's what we are. And for many, many, many people, we are it. So we love our jobs.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, for your insights. I mean, I just learned a ton again, from everything that you just said. But really, I mean, the services that you provide to humans, I think that is like key, something that we have to remember. But also, I mean, you just said something about how you had to close your doors of I think it was the Community Action Center for a few days
For a
or
month last year.
for a month.
So our
And-
staff was attacked with a machete so there was a man with a machete that attacked my staff. And it was a very vicious and brutal and traumatizing a time for everybody. And so we closed for a month, not knowing that we'd ever reopen. But
Right.
we did because my staff felt like people need us. People need us.
Right. And you said that, the police were calling saying that there were so many more people out on the street because you were closed. And so I think that is telling of what you do. And so I just, there's always the question of like, if somebody's panhandling, should you give them money or should you direct, if you feel like you should do something, what should you do? And I feel like, an organization like this or this organization itself could use that funding. That 100 people that use the center could escalate into even more people that could use the center.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thank you. Thank you for the work.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question, and because we do hear, and first of all, the work that you're doing is amazing. So
Thank you.
to both of you in Cleveland, that's just our hats off for sure. We do hear from neighbors and residents where, we may hear from law enforcement that, the kind of question about like, and I think you alluded to it, where folks have to be referred. It's a social service referral to get into the majority of your facilities, except for the Code Blue. And so there is that kind of like demystifying the folks that may have some sort of substance abuse and getting them into it. But I think that's the part that if we see folks within the community, that's the kind of the broken piece that I think some of the city leadership and folks are trying to solve for right now. But so I guess, I just want to make sure everyone's kind of aware of that point, because it's not like you're going out and picking up these folks or they're coming to you. There is kind of this additional step that has to occur, at least from what I understand, before they can come into your facilities.
So yes, I would say for the most part. So what we often do though, if someone shows up at my door, we do not say no, unless we're full. Like if we don't have a bed, we don't have a bed, because we are state licensed. So we have 30 beds, except if it's freezing cold and I don't care about any regulations. I just house people, just shove them anywhere, get on the couch. I don't, so I called the state once and like told them myself, and they said, don't, it's cold. Don't tell on yourself. But if they show up at our door and we have a bed, then we send them to DSS the next day. And if the next day they say, I don't want to go, we go, okay, we'll give you one more day. Okay, let's try one more day. And if they want, they're like 5 days, then we like, okay, now you have to go down to the Mission. That's not ideal. People are not really wild about that. But mostly, most people, once they're in our doors, acquiesce. And either if they don't, then they leave on their own. They just don't come back. But most people, get in there. It's a beautiful facility. And people are happy to have a nice place to sleep, a nice place to eat, a nice place to watch TV, and people helping them navigate these systems. So, so you can tell them, I mean, I think, people are like, do I engage? Do I not engage? I think you have to use your judgment. I wouldn't like get all up in, in someone's space. I think people know what the help is. I think you call for help. I think the police are going to have a department, a division that will know. The outreach van, they kind of know. I mean, the police certainly should be called if they're a threat to you, a threat to somebody, if they're really, acting, or if they're, camping on your front lawn, or, so there are reasons to call the police. But if someone's just sitting on a park bench talking to themselves, like, I wouldn't call anybody. So,
Nope. Still with us, Janie?
I think Janine froze.
I think Janine froze. Well, I will say thank you, Janine. If you get back on, I think we've got a couple more questions for you, which we can also email out and share the answers to later. So with that, turn it over to Gabriella. I know she's got a couple legislative updates for us.
Sure. I saw someone's hand was up. I just want to make sure that they were called on, but I don't see it anymore. Okay, so hi everyone. It's been a really busy summer, and I'm about to enter budget season, so there's a lot of stuff going on. First off, Janine, thank you so much. If you're still here, or your team member that was here too, that was such a great presentation. Interfaith does such amazing work. I'm so excited that they're going to have more beds, because when you only have 30, I know that really fills up quick. So it's just so wonderful to know that they're going to expand their offerings and have more of the IPH model across our city, which is just so great, because I know that they fill up quite quick. So it's just so wonderful. A lot of really good stuff were announced today as it relates to the unhoused and mental health, and I will get into that in a second. First on my list was the speed humps that Trail mentioned earlier. I'm so excited that Hamilton Street from Lark to South Swan is chosen. I heard that it's going to start fall 2023, but we're in fall right now, so I'm not exactly sure 100% when the construction will start, but we are being told on the Common Council that the selected locations should be coming at least this year. So I'm so happy to advocate for that. I put in a lot of requests, and so I'm hoping that there will be more chosen in the future, but this was a very deserving location. So I'm happy to advocate for that. Next is, as many people have seen, there was a statement put out by the city that they're going to be increasing the police presence right around Lark Street, and that will be during the 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. shift and another earlier morning shift. Those are the two times of the day that the city was seeing an increase in quality of life related calls. And this is a push to address many different quality of life issues just from one angle. While I think it's a personal belief that police on the street may not really fix the root cause of issues and like sustainably address an issue, it is something that a lot of constituents and really business owners were advocating for. So I did make that ask of the mayor, and we were included in a citywide assessment of where else increased police presence will be. And they're including a large chunk of South Pearl in addition to Central Ave. So we're also going to have that. So some of the other things that are coming were announced today, and I'm so excited because these are programs that I have really been advocating for since I got into office, and things that our county legislator, Matt Peter, has been working with me on. And I think it's going to make very serious and lasting impact. One of the most important ones that I think we will see is a proactive street team of care managers, case managers, and social workers that will be able to go on the street and go up to people that are potentially experiencing homelessness and connect them with the group that addresses people on the street. It's called coordinated entry. And what I've seen as a public defender, and I think Janine kind of touched on, is that there are beds available and there's resources available, but some people that are in active unhoused state, like either don't have the means, aren't able to advocate for themselves, or just don't know the resources that are available. So this team goes to people, meeting people where they are. They fill out the applications. They figure out like where are the streets that you normally hang out, so we can find you again. Keep tabs on you. Give you medication if even needed. Like it's such a wraparound program. And so we're going to see that in real time. I've actually been working with Joseph's House, which is different from the program that is funded this morning that was announced, which is CARES. But I've been working with someone in Joseph's House for probably about a month, getting people on the street, specifically in Lark, access to Joseph's House services, which gives them access to coordinated entry to actually get them housed. And it's this gap that we're trying to bridge with this program announced today to give people not only services and programming, but housing. I'm so proud and like really, really excited that this is happening. And it's through coordination with the city and the county. So now that that's public, that's going to be great. I'm hoping that it rolls out sometime in the fall, but what the mayor and the county executive said today is that we're going to see real impact in the spring. But just so that we know, in our neighborhood, I've already, I've created this partnership with Joseph's House with their case manager to give more attention to Lark Street specifically, just in between the time that we see this bigger program that is implemented. And her name's Percy, and she is going to have an office in the church on Lark and Lancaster. And I'm really excited about that. That was a great partnership. Other stuff that were announced today is an increase in the mental health court, which is if you're already involved in the criminal legal system and you have a mental health issue, you're able to plead guilty to a crime, be supervised on probation for a period of time, and then maybe get a reduced plea at the end of it if successful. Hi, Janine, you're back. I can pause if you want Janine to finish, or I can keep going. I don't want to.
No, I mean, I feel like my internet disconnected, but I mean, I feel like I'm done unless people have questions. I saw questions in the chat, but so Gabriella, why don't you just keep going? I mean, I don't know. It's up to you, Terrell.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, Gabriella, why don't you kind of keep going, and then we can have a bit of an open question answer session for both you and Janine. And Janine, I'm glad you're able to make it back. Thank you again for that presentation.
Okay.
Gabrielle.
Jeannie and I was explaining earlier about the program that was announced, how they will be connecting people with coordinated entry, which is like so vital, and how Percy from Joseph's House, which I'm sure you sit on the CE meetings as well, Janine, that Percy sits on those as well. And Percy has had a really serious impact on Lark Street since I've kind of brought them closer to our neighborhood. So I'm so excited about that. And Janine has an office in the ward. So I'm hoping that Percy can be like a middle ground before the CARES program really gets off its feet. Other things that were announced today is something Janine mentioned as well with the Mercy House reopening, which are going to have more beds, which is going to be great. And that's really going to also fill a massive need we see in our unhoused population. And I think that might be it for like the big things that the Hudson Park neighborhood would care about with some of the things announced. Let me think of some other stuff. There was also, a constituent survey that I just put out that I would love. I'm putting it out in my newsletter. I will send it to all the neighborhood association presidents. It's just it should probably take about 10 minutes. It just gauges some of the issues that I see people emailing me about, It gauges some of the legislation that's going to be coming through the council that I've heard from other council members, and it gauges some ideas that I've just had personally. I'd love to see where people land on it. There's an option for, thanks for the comment, awesome. There's an option for additional comment, and as always, like, I'm open to comments and suggestions and additional, commentary on the questionnaire if needed, and my email's really accessible. I'm trying to figure out how I can mail it to everyone. And I'm hoping that that will get a really good response as well, because I want to make sure we impact everyone as much as possible. And I think the last thing is, last two things is the cleanup that's coming at the end of the month. Each of the parks or each of the locations are really kind of central to the neighborhoods. I think the Pat Kelly one is in Park South. There was some confusion there. And that's going to be great. And the neighborhood services department really kind of spearheaded that. Thank you, Falake, if you're still on. And then the last thing, yes, thanks, Falake. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on was I'm having a really robust October with office hours for people to talk about budget stuff. But also, I know that I have been slacking this summer with office hours, and I want to make sure that I make up for that, especially with the budget that's coming up. So I'm going to have some late night ones at Herbie's Burgers. If sometimes it's easier for you from like 7 to 9 p.m., I'll be at Bitchin' Donuts one day, and then I'm going to have another one on my stoop. So I think that's it for my updates. Oh, and then I'll talk about the panhandling resolution, which kind of was introduced a few weeks ago. And when it originally came out, the resolution language, I felt it wasn't even public yet. The resolution language I felt was dehumanizing, and there were some modifications that were made, and I suggested some modifications to the sponsor. But even when it came out, I spoke with some Hatas, Joseph's House, United Tenants. These I actually didn't speak with Interfaith Partnership for the Homeless, but I did speak with some organizations that do this work, and took suggestions from them, which was that the suggestion was not to give your $1 or $2 to the organizations, but to give like items or clothing or food, like to make donations of some kind to the organizations, as opposed to like your $1 or $2 that you'd be giving to someone that it would be asking you for money. And through that conversation, I think that the resolution language is actually going to be changed, because there's been like a really, really intense response from some of these community providers to modify the language, which I think is really beautiful and beneficial, because it created this discussion among Common Council members and providers in the community to make the statement something that would be more powerful and more impactful. And last thing on that note is that I'm also working with Common Council leadership to bring back a program called Albany Hands, or Helping Hands. It was actually created in the early 90s by the Lark Street Merchant Association and someone named Dennis Mosley, who created the SHARP program in the jail and did a lot of community outreach work. It was a program that went up to people asking for money on the street and said, if you agree to clean the street or do these other small tasks in the neighboring areas, we'll give you X amount of money for the day. And then if you come back tomorrow, we'll keep giving you money for the day. And the point of that program was to instill a feeling of purpose and community, and not have people ask for money on the street, but instead give them a way to actually make money. So I'm investigating that program. It was, like I said, created on Lark Street. I'm talking to people in city leadership to figure out funding if we even get to that point. But something else I'm trying to actually do to address the issue, as opposed to signing on to a resolution in the Common Council that is truly just that. It's illusory and doesn't actually do anything. But I am trying to address the issue through an effective program that has actually been created on Lark Street. So That's a lot. I probably have some things I missed, but my newsletter is coming out this week. So I'm hoping all the updates can be more comprehensive in there too.
Great, thank you. So I want to open up for the next few minutes with questions. I know, Carrie, I think you had one for Janine.
Hi, yeah, I put it in the chat, but I don't know if I'd be happy to ask it too. So, our neighborhood typically is looking for ways to not just give money, but also get involved if it's appropriate. So, are there things that individuals can do to help support the program? I know you mentioned donations of clothes, but are there other donations or like volunteer hours? Is there anything that you would say is needed? And I guess it's like a Janine or Cleveland.
So Cleveland, I had Cleveland get off. I would say go to our website. It's fairly updated with opportunities or what we need or what the current need is. It kind of changes. All of a sudden, someone will say, "Oh my God, we're running low on towels," and so we throw up, "We need towels," and so there are opportunities. We don't have a lot of volunteer opportunities, but we do have volunteer opportunities in the way that you can coordinate with your neighbors and say, I'll be the one that collects everybody's towels. So I think there's ways to do things that we are happy to help coordinate or organize or help you think it through. I have a development staff, and that's kind of what they do. But I would say the best bet would be to go to our website. Because if I say something now, I could go in tomorrow and they go, "Oh no, we already got all that, Janine. We moved on to this." So I literally can't keep up with it. But there's always needs. So we love neighborhood support. We love people to be, involved. And so I think that anytime anybody wants to get involved, you go to the website or reach out via email. There's ways to do so online.
Great, and that's iphny.org.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just put that in the chat for everyone as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions for Gabriella or Janine or Cleveland? If he's
Cleveland signed off.
He signed off.
Yeah.
But any other questions from folks? No?
All right.
I want to say thank you again to Janine, to Gabriella for joining us, to Officer Duran as well. And thank you, Officer Duran, for all those years you have, specifically devoted to the neighborhood. And I'm sure you will continue to vote as you can. And then again, just folks, as I said earlier, as you see issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll also see, if there's ways we can, work with Janine and her group to get out, information on what their organization needs, in the ways of goods and stuff. Certainly, see if we can't find a way to follow her website for updates. And so just want to thank everyone. As Gabriella mentioned, again, the neighborhood cleanup on the 30th, 10 to 12, with several meeting locations. Supplies, as in other neighborhood cleanups, will be provided by DGS, and they will pick up the completed trash bags at the end of the project. Gabriella?
Thanks. I just thought of another thing as it relates to the cleanup. For those of you on this call, I'm assuming you know what fix is because coming to this meeting, so you're probably active and involved and aware, but we're going to have a C-Click Fix tutorial after the cleanup, probably around like 12 noon-ish, whenever we're done. I feel like cleanups normally go for like an hour and a half, so I'm telling people 12 noon, but myself and Flake will be there, and it's at Pint Sized, which is on Lark Street, and hopefully it's nice enough that we can do the cleanup, which means we can be outside. And we will explain to people how you can use C-Click Fix to report some of these issues, and also do a debrief of some of the things that we saw in our own neighborhoods. If something was like very, very, very bad, like a massive pile of trash, leaking something on the wall, I'd love to hear about. Flake and I would love to hear about it so we can, either help you with a quick fix issue or report it to the proper department.
Great. Flake?
Hi everyone. I have something completely unrelated to share, if that's okay, if everyone's done with their presentations.
Sure.
So on November 14th, well, in general, our department will be holding Meet Your Neighborhood Specialist events, and mine will be November 14th at First Presbyterian Church from 5:30 to 6:30. And if that's all right with you, I would like to share the flyer to share it
Absolutely.
with. Okay, great. That's all.
Great. Yeah, and we'll definitely get that out of our listserv and put that on social media.
Okay, great.
Great. All right. With that, I think that's everything. Want to thank everyone for their time. And we'll be in touch.
All right, folks, have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.